Did you notice that National did a thing over the weekend? And no, I don't mean cursing the Chiefs and their supporters. It was their 90th AGM, which means that Winston Peters is actually almost as old as the National Party. And the difference in numbers between the two is about the average age X's former party president was far too keen on. Now, here's the thing. Clearly, this is a big deal for National. It's their please vote for us despite everything we screwed up because it was all our coalition partners' fault. Honest sales pitch to the electorate. It included Simeon Brown characterising their partners, the only other parties that they say they will work with or who are currently in Parliament and want to work with them while also vilifying and trying to insult them at the same time and giving them far more influence than most voters expected for minor parties with single-digit outcomes in 2023 as squabbling children, although Radio New Zealand framed that as Simeon discourages strategic voting. National are generally polling in the high 20s at the moment, which would actually mean no list MPs would be returned if electorate wins stayed the same. And there's some big names like Jerry Brownlee, Paul Goldsmith, and of course, Nicola No Boats Willis relying on list placements. Or as RNZ framed it, National members are nervously optimistic. National also announced New Zealand First's compulsory KiwiSaver and Kickstart policy with a higher initial investment, which RNZ framed as, can we afford it? And then responded with, not only can we must. And then two more stories on their front page about why there should be cross-party support for this and how this lays the groundwork for bigger changes to come. And full credit here, it may have taken National over 50 years to finally come around to the idea of some sort of compulsory super scheme, after Muldoon scrapped the one that Labour set up in the 70s, which led directly to the Cullen Fund not being made compulsory to begin with, but did have an initial $1,000 government investment actually in the Cullen Fund for everyone, including children and newborns whose parents signed them up to it when it first began, that John Key stripped from the program in 2015. But hey, National got there eventually. Don't worry though, because, the Greens corrected a typo in their tax policy, so that's clearly the big headline here. In fact, on their politics page at RNZ, the top 4 stories were 3 National and 1 Greens, and half of the last 10 political stories on there were about National and its AGM in some way. But don't worry, I'm sure somebody will be along soon to tell me some old Curia poll done by David Farrar, the National Party member first quoted actually in that story about being nervously optimistic, that said journalists in this country lean to the left, so this is all clearly socialism or communism in action. And here's the thing, okay? The entire event from the outside kind of felt like the vibes were off. It started off with this weird video by, I think it was the Young Nats, with MPs yelling at people about tax, which felt more like respect my authority than let's get pumped. I mean, there's at least one person out there who I suspect has seen this face just before being assaulted with a bed leg. And it went all the way through to shaming the Chiefs over the weekend into a pummeling in the rugby, through to the launch of their new ad. It was the epitome of the current National Party. And that is not a compliment. Actually, you know what? Let's take a look at their ad. It's fascinating. From the way that they launched it with National drops a new ad, it's their ad on their social media feeds. It was a weird way to launch it. The ad itself starts with Luxon rehearsing one-liners before saying he doesn't do one-liners. It has this dramatic montage of high inflation numbers and ram raid footage and, a photo of Chris Hipkins, because juxtaposition is an effective tool in storytelling. It has been since the Odessa Steps massacre sequence in Battleship Potemkin 101 years ago. Sorry, history lesson for you. And don't forget, bad things that happen internationally that are going on right now, well, that gets a montage as well of, oil crisis stuff. So, bad outcomes then are Labour's fault, and bad outcomes now are someone else's fault. Whose? I don't know, maybe it's the man who's weirdly pacing in an empty room mumbling to himself before a direct-to-camera rehearse line delivery that feels like a made-up hostage video. Also, there wasn't a recession under Labour, just correcting the record here, and that's important, but there was one briefly, I believe, under National after they took over. Also, that horror lighting and J.J. Abrams lens flare, it's kind of working overtime here. Now, remember, he didn't panic when things got tough.
When things got tough, we didn't panic.
Except that time that he freaked out at the polls saying that he was about to be rolled, and there was that whole leadership crisis thing that went nowhere, and then him having a sook at the media for being mean to him.
Your life more expensive by adding more than $100 billion to our debt. We chose a different path.
Oh, they're actually borrowing more than Labour did and changed the measurement metrics. So it looks like they're repaying debt faster, but they're actually not.
That's how you tackle the cost of living. That's how jobs are created. That's how Kiwis get ahead.
There's record high numbers of people unemployed and the largest CPI increases that have been on record for essential products.
With a long-term plan, not short-term fixes that end up making things worse.
Oh yeah, God forbid, short-term fixes like cancelling ferries by text message or tobacco industry tax kickbacks that have helped drive up underground smoke markets through rushed changes to smoke-free laws.
We've delivered 49,000 fewer victims of violent crime, an 85% reduction in ram raids.
Now, that 49,000 fewer victims claim is actually based on qualitative data on how many people feel victimised, not police data on actual victimisation. That 85% drop in ram raids claim was from before they actually won the election, so they had nothing to do with it. In fact, the data from the police show that this was a Labour-driven change that led to a decrease before National took over. And those are demonstrably false claims. That you could refer this ad to the Advertising Standards Authority for false advertising if you see it being presented in a paid format over. Just saying.
Those are the numbers I care about. Not vanity polls, not popularity contests.
Again, if you don't care about the polls, why that whole dramatic demanding for a vote of confidence? And, the media sook that came with it. Now, National will be hoping that this show of unity and celebration of themselves is going to give them a boost in the polls, helped by their KiwiSaver policy. But National are really lagging with policy announcements so far. Okay, so I actually did up this bit for a segment that we ended up cutting from this week's collective, comparing policy announcements made so far by most of the major parties. National has a couple, but every other party has a heap. Don't get me wrong, some of them are awful. Half of New Zealand First are culture war policies and conspiracy theorist fodder, but National is well behind in releasing detailed policy. And National have to contend with the fact that they've been in charge for 3 years and things not only still suck, they suck harder than before. That they've driven people overseas in record numbers, increased poverty, forced more people onto the streets to live, and driven up costs while pushing through unpopular laws under urgency to avoid scrutiny, circumventing democratic processes and human rights to push their ideology, and legitimised and platformed culture war attacks on minority groups. And they still need to blame their coalition partners for it all, and suck up to them at the same time so they can keep working together after the election. And, criticise policies that are coming out that actually help people with the issues that they're facing and actually use their taxpayer money to help them in some way instead of giving it to, big donors or enriching the wealthy even further. So this event was, from the outside at least, kind of self-indulgent flash, but very little public charm. I guess time will tell if it worked, but don't worry, they're nervously optimistic. Or they'll yell at you about how they lowered tax rates, so the lowest income earners got like a few extra dollars to cover the massive increase in food basics and power. Hello there, Kia ora podcast listeners. This has been a very strange couple of days. The collective stuff was super busy over the weekend. I have a new deck, that looks nice, and I got told that one of my biggest contracts might be coming to an end all of a sudden. It's taken them 6 months to work that out. So lots of stress, lots of drama, and still trying to get content out because it's a way to help me process things, but also it keeps me busy, and that's really essential right now. Anyway, I wanted to do a piece on the National Party AGM because it is fascinating, weirdly fascinating, because it has this creepy cult vibe, and I suppose all AGMs for political parties are actually kind of like this. Obviously, everybody who is there is really excited to be there and is very optimistic. I totally get that. But seeing how the media has just been like, oh my god, this is the best event since Comic-Con, has been insane. Seeing how they're platforming National's second official campaign policy, when everybody else has done a whole bunch, this is the be-all and end-all. It's taken 50 fucking years for National to finally go, you know what? Maybe compulsory super is a good thing. It boggles the mind. The mind be boggled indeed. But that's alright. We've got a few months now until the election. We've got, I think the two main parties have now had their big AGMs, and I think a few parties have actually done it. Oh, excuse me. It's also 10:30 at night. And I've been trying to work on this all day while doing other stuff to, save my job. So yeah, it's been a long day. Anyway, Go and check this video out. It is a weird one. I want it to show just how out of touch National can be, but also how they made me, somebody who lived in the Waikato for 20 years, a dedicated Waikato boy who people still seem to think lives there, actually go and cheer for the Hurricanes on the weekend. That was on them. That's their fault. They're a curse, at least to sports teams that they support. Yeah, anyway, you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe, all the usual stuff. Comment, tell me what you're doing up to this weekend. Did you catch us on The Collective? Did you sit there at the conference and go, wow, I'm the person who's really scared that people forgot what damage Labour did? The Herald actually, I think it was the Herald, went and found conspiracy theorists to ask why they think National's going to win. It was crazy. Crazy madness. Anyway, time for another election campaign. Let's get into this and let's vote these pricks out. And go and subscribe if you haven't already.